Hello, Bygone Geek universe, and welcome to your weekly dose of nostalgia. Step away from the stress of today and join me back in 1999. It's your time traveler's guide to this very moment, just way back when.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now.
All right, folks, let's get this rolling with the very first category, just like we always do, of what would have been on your theater marquee in the movies right now in 1999. So let's check it out.
Coming soon to a theater near you.
So your top 5 movies at this very moment in 1999 would have been The Sixth Sense, Runaway Bride, Deep Blue Sea, Mystery Men, and American Pie.
It'll be like this one time at band camp.
So the very first movie we're going to talk about is none other than Deep Blue Sea.
What you've done is knock us all the way to the bottom of the goddamn food chain.
So what happens when you combine Nick Fury, The Punisher, LL Cool J, brain-enhanced sharks all into one crazy movie? You get 1999's Deep Blue Sea. And I can tell you right now, I vividly remember watching this movie in the theaters because I loved sharks. Terrified of sharks, but I love shark movies, to be more specific, I guess. I remember watching Jaws at a very young age, far too young of an age, with my grandfather. And I remember watching Shark Week all the time with my grandfather growing up as well. So I was highly educated on sharks, but highly terrified of them as well. And so Deep Blue Sea kind of had this reminiscent feel to me of what got my attention about Jaws back in the day. And this movie, mind you, the graphics don't hold up in 2023, but I still love this movie. I still think it's one of the top movies that comes to like shark attacks and shark hunts and things like that. Obviously, Jaws can't be beat, but Deep Blue Sea, I think, might be second place. I really do. But yeah, looking back on it now, when you watch like the trailer of it, or if you haven't seen this movie, especially when poor Samuel L. Jackson, when poor Nick Fury is giving his pep talk to the rest of the crew to get out of this submersible and to make it out alive, and you get like the ultimate jump scare. It was a crazy movie, but it was just a lot of fun, and I really enjoyed it back in 1999.
We're gonna seal off this.
And next up, we're going to talk about the comedy classic, Mystery Men.
A new league of heroes that step to a different beat. Mystery Men.
So I might catch a little flack for this, but the movie Mystery Men is right up there with a lot of very iconic superhero movies. And it flawlessly integrates comedy into it with just so many. I mean, if you thought Avengers was full of great actors, Mystery Men in 1999 just had an amazing lineup with Ben Stiller, William H. Macy, Janine Garofalo, Paul Reubens. I mean, so many different people. That's not Hank Azaria was in it. And then Jeffrey Rush as Casanova Frankenstein as this villain in the movie. It was so funny, but also in this true superhero vein.
Well, we've always been each other's greatest nemesis. Nemesis.
And for all of you who have listened to the show, you know I have a piece of my nostalgic heart that is fond of romantic comedy movies. So the next one we're going to talk about is none other than Runaway Bride. At this moment in 1999, Julia Roberts was really like the queen of romantic comedy. I mean, she started it all with Pretty Woman in 1990, and then she did My Best Friend's Wedding, she did Notting Hill, she did Runaway Bride, so many classics. And I know for me, I remember at this moment in 1999 watching Runaway Bride. It was just a very fun movie that you got to see Richard Gere and Julia Roberts back on the screen again after 9 years since Pretty Woman in 1990. It was just so great and so wholesome and so sweet. But again, it's another trope of a romantic comedy of this era, that there's so much cheating. There's so many broken hearts. There's so many people that are hurt. There's just a wake. There's an aftermath of heartbreak. but we just wanted to see Julia and Richard get together. That's all we wanted to see. So this aftermath was worth all of the heartache.
That if I don't ask you to be mine, I'll regret it for the rest of my life.
And yet another movie that came out at this very moment in 1999 was the comedy high school classic, American Pie.
She's kind of looking right into your eyes, saying, "Hey, big boy."
Oh my God.
American Pie.
So I feel like every generation has their coming of age, potty humor, irreverent comedy that is just built for young kids of that era. And I know for me as a millennial, American Pie was that movie for me. I mean, I was 14 in 1999. So like heading into high school, I was dumb. I was young. I made poor decisions. And so to see young, dumb kids making poor decisions on the screen was very connecting to me. And it was just so crazy and so funny. And now in hindsight, yes, there are problematic things. But again, it was the final year of the 90s. It was 1999. And these movies aren't meant to be PC. They're meant to be offensive. They're meant to be over the top. They're meant to connect with young kids who don't have a fully developed brain to make wise decisions.
Mr. Finch, are you trying to seduce me?
Yes, ma'am, I am.
And the final movie that would have been on your theater marquee at this very moment in 1999 is none other than The Sixth Sense.
The Sixth Sense.
Please make them leave.
I'm working on it.
So I saved this movie until the very end because it is my top choice. The Sixth Sense at this moment in 1999 really took pop culture. It took the world by storm. It was huge. And for M. Night Shyamalan to come out of nowhere and just do such an amazing movie, but also to bring in this young actor, Haley Joel Osment, and then you have Bruce Willis too. But it was this trifecta of just mind-blowing horror and mind-blowing drama. It was so good and so well done and so ahead of its time. And all the twists and turns. I mean, it was, I don't know about all of you, but I vividly remember in 1999 talking with so many people, so many classmates of mine, that I'm like, can you believe it? Could you believe that Bruce Willis was dead the whole time?
You ever feel the prickly things on the back of your neck?
Yes.
That's them.
So do you remember in the movie Sixth Sense that every single time the young Haley Joel Osment was about to be terrified by a dead person, you would see his breath and you would see him shivering, and it would really make you feel like I'm also cold and shivering in the theater watching this movie. It came across that way because that was not CGI. They actually would put plastic panels around the set, like drape plastic tarps, and pump cold air, like below freezing air, into the set so that you would see that breath. And poor little Haley Joel Osment, like, I couldn't imagine being that young and you're just sitting there shivering. But when you rewatch this movie, you can see in different scenes him legitimately shaking, the chills on his body, and that all is because it was below freezing in that bedroom. It was below freezing in like all the different sets. That is so crazy that they went to that level of detail.
Mama?
No. Dinner is not ready.
Did you know that before Haley Joel Osment landed the role in The Sixth Sense, that Michael Cera, at the age of 10, actually tried out for the role? Michael Cera, as in Juno, Arrested Development, Superbad. All I can think of is that just how kooky and deadpan and just Michael Cera-esque that he is, he had to be that way at the age of 10. So I was astonished to see that he actually read for the role of Cole in Sixth Sense. And no offense to you, Michael Cera, you're good in your own right too, but you're not Sixth Sense good. It would have been, you would have been in the spoof version, like the scary movie version. You know, that would have worked so much better. But Haley Joel Osment will forever be Cole in the movie Sixth Sense. Sorry, Michael.
And he went to his father for comfort.
Did you know that the movie Sixth Sense was actually part of a 3-movie deal that Bruce Willis had to commit to because he had lost the studio almost $20 million in a movie that was never produced. It was called Broadway Baller, and apparently only 20 days into the filming of the movie, Bruce Willis starred in it and produced it. So he was able to fire people. In the first 20 days, he fired the majority of the crew, and they actually had to take production to a screeching halt and cancel the movie altogether. So to avoid actually going to court and all of these different things, he actually had to agree with the studio, okay, fine, I'll do these 3 movies, whatever they are, to help you make the money back. And they actually decreased his salary in order to make these movies. And those 3 movies were Armageddon, Sixth Sense, and The Kid. And so what's so wildly crazy about this deal is he lost them $17.5 million for Broadway Baller not being produced. Can you guess how much money these 3 movies made back in return? Over $1 billion. Wow. Did the studio make out like bandits with that deal?
No problem! No problem!
So the very next category that we're going to roll right into is what would you have been listening to on the radio at this very moment in 1999? So let's check it out.
Number 1! Hello again, everybody, and welcome to Casey's Top 40.
One of the top songs at this very moment in 1999 was none other than Summer Girls by LFO.
New kids on the block had a bunch of hits. Chinese food makes me sick.
Another great song that came out at this very moment in 1999 was Genie in a Bottle by Christina Aguilera. And another great song that was topping the charts at this very moment in 1999 was All Star by Smash Mouth.
Hey now, you're a rock star. Get the show on, get paid.
So as the years have gone by, I realized that Smash Mouth has kind of gone the way of Nickelback, that I feel like for some reason people started poking fun and not wanting to admit that they were a Nickelback fan or they were a Smash Mouth fan back in the day, but everybody was. I don't know why we're trying to lie about it. I don't know why they've turned into these kind of jokes and parodies of themselves, but I know if we're all honest, at this moment in 1999 when Smash Mouth came out, we were singing this all the way through. We all knew the words. There's no lying about it. There's no taking it back. There's no poking fun at Smash Mouth. There's no making it seem like they're Nickelback. We all listened to All Star. And I vividly remember buying their album, Astro Lounge. I mean, you had an awesome lineup. You had All Star. Then The Morning Comes. Come on, and Can't Get Enough of You, Baby. I listened to that on repeat in the summer of 1999 at the age of 14. It was a type of music genre that I had never heard of. They were so edgy sounding and so you can't even describe them. They were so ahead of their time, and just Smash Mouth is Smash Mouth. That's the only way to describe them. But we were all, if you grew up in this era, you love Smash Mouth. Don't you lie.
Only shooting stars break the mold.
So let's roll right into the next category of what would have been on your TV lineup at this very moment in 1999. So let's check it out.
Stay tuned for a whole new season of TGIF.
Do you guys remember the CBS show that was called Martial Law? It starred Sammo Hung and Arsenio Hall. It really was this combination of Rush Hour and Walker, Texas Ranger in one really cool show. And weirdly, as I was researching what was happening at this very moment in 1999 for this episode, I had completely forgotten about this show. And then I realized, I'm like, wait a second, when did Rush Hour come out? And this show and Rush Hour were actually at the very same time they came out. So it's hard to determine. It's like, who copied who, or were these two ideas that came out at the same time? And it's just by happenstance because the storylines were very similar. But I do remember for the 2 very short seasons that this show was on, that Martial Law was on, I really dug it. I thought it was super cool. And the ratings for it, looking back, were great. Another show that I was super fond of watching at this very moment in 1999 was Fridays at 9 p.m. on Fox. You could watch Mad TV. Back in 1999, I loved anything and everything comedy. So I feel like SNL was amazing. I feel like In Living Color was amazing. But I also feel like Mad TV was amazing. And the fact that we grew up in an era where we had 3 live comedy sketch shows all at the same time is really kind of shocking when you think about it. Because now in 2023 and for quite some time, it has only been the monopoly of Saturday Night Live. And it's just amazing to me that 3 of these shows were able to survive back in the day when we were kids. And I just loved Mad TV. Will Sasso was so funny. Bobby Lee was so funny. It is amazing how you get connected to these childhood heroes, though. Like, for instance, Bobby Lee, several years back, started multiple podcasts on YouTube. And I was like, it's Bobby from Mad TV. This is so cool. And now I get to watch him just like I did back then. I get to watch him weekly on multiple podcasts, and he still makes me laugh today. And that's so cool that it all started from when I was a little kid and saw him on Mad TV, just being so funny and so crazy and just so Bobby Lee. And now he's in his 50s and he's still so Bobby Lee. And I love that. I love that so much.
You're going down! You like that? Yeah!
And let's jump right into the final category, just like we do every week, is what would have been on your video rental shelf. What would you have gotten at Blockbuster Video at this very moment in 1999? So let's check it out.
Come discover the Blockbuster difference.
So 5 of the top movie rentals at this very moment in 1999 were as follows: Ed TV, Office Space, Analyze This, Blast from the Past, and October Sky. So I'll admit, but when Office Space first came out, I was kind of too young to understand all of the humor behind it. But similar to the TV show The Office, I watched it because it was funny. And as I got older and the show was getting older, I got an office job. And I was like, wait, I get the humor now. I understand this. And Office Space was the same way. And I know for me, as an almost 40-year-old man, every time I rewatch Office Space, I swear to God, I'm a different employee every single time that I do a rewatch. Sometimes I'm a yes man. Sometimes I want to break the printer. Sometimes I just want my stapler. Sometimes I just want a piece of cake. I've been every single employee in the movie Office Space. It's crazy how well they did the writing to make it relatable as the years go on. And as you get more and more years of experience of office work under your belt, it's amazing how relatable it is.
I used to be over by the window and I could see the squirrels, and they were married.
And the next movie we're going to talk about is the insanely less serious version of Truman Show, Ed TV.
Wow. What did I miss? He's checking out his own butt.
You gotta see this.
So this movie introduced me to Matthew McConaughey. I feel like it also, it didn't introduce me to Woody Harrelson. Cheers introduced me to Woody Harrelson. But it introduced me to McConaughey and this brotherhood idea of Woody Harrelson and Matthew McConaughey. I feel like since this movie, I kind of just assumed they were actually brothers. They were related in some way. They're definitely cut from the same cloth. And when you go back and rewatch this movie, it started that kind of like foundation of these two guys are the same person. They're both laid back. You could just see them like chilling together, drinking some scotch, probably smoking some pot, just having a good time talking about all of their movies together. But Ed TV, very much so. It came out, I know for sure Truman Show was first. And then Ed TV came out. But it's from this era of like, you have Armageddon and Deep Impact. You have The Truman Show, and then you have Ed TV. You have all of these things that's just like, you don't know. Was it just people were sharing ideas in Hollywood and they decided to copy off of each other and try to get to market first? But it was just, even though they were a similar storyline, Ed TV and The Truman Show were wildly different when it came to the tone of the movie.
What happens when you go to the bathroom? Do they go in with you? No, Al.
And another great comedy that came out at this moment in 1999 was Analyze This.
You don't hear the word no very often, do you?
I hear it all the time, only it's more like, no, please, no, no.
I feel like the movie Analyze This was a groundbreaking comedic role for Robert De Niro. If you think about it, we were used to seeing him in Raging Bull, Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, Casino, all of these super, super intense movies. And then for him to do Analyze This was an insane pivot, but he did it so amazingly well. And then I feel like when you put him together with the comedic timing of Billy Crystal in this Sopranos-like movie, again, it's from this era of we're repeating things. What came first, Sopranos or Analyze This? They were both out at a very similar time with very similar storylines. But yes, Analyze This at least took the more comedic route than Sopranos did. But it's funny to think that they were so similar, of this mobster that is dealing with this pent-up anxiety and has to go see a psychiatrist. I mean, they're both so great, but absolutely identical in storyline. It's really crazy when you think about it.
I'm really, I'm enraged. I'm feeling very, very mad about that.
You saying what I think you're saying?
And yet another great comedy in this home video lineup that came out at this very moment in 1999 is none other than Blast from the Past.
Brendan Fraser, Alicia Silverstone, Christopher Walken, and Sissy Spacek. Blast from the Past.
So I know that there's some camps that'll say that The Whale is Brendan Fraser's best movie. And then there's other camps that'll say The Mummy is Brendan Fraser's best movie. But I'm going to say, without a doubt, that my personal best film from my childhood from Brendan Fraser was Blast from the Past. There is nobody else that could play this idea of a young kid that was born in a wartime Cold War bunker, never saw the light of day, and then comes out, 30 years later, I believe, and sees the sky for the first time, sees a person of color for the first time, sees a girl that's not his mother for the first time. I mean, if you think about it, it was brilliantly done, and he performed it so brilliantly. And Christopher Walken and Sissy Spacek as his parents is flawless casting. Blast from the Past is, and will always be, Brendan Fraser's best movie to me. Absolutely. I know I might get some heat for that, but if you haven't seen Blast from the Past, you need to go see it. If you have and you disagree with me, go watch it again until it becomes your favorite Brendan Fraser movie, because it's so wholesome, it's so funny, it's masterclass of acting all the way through. I adore this movie and never will stop adoring Blast from the Past.
Are we getting hot?
Yes.
So the two movies in the 90s that made me obsessed with space and rocketry was Apollo 13 and October Sky. And I know what you're saying. October Sky is not a space movie, but it is. It's about the precursor, the space race, what led to it. And it's so cool because that movie is based on a book called Rocket Boys from Homer Hickman, who is Jake Gyllenhaal's character in the movie. And it is about these young kids that became NASA engineers and changed the face of the space race. That's so cool. And it's just, I don't know. If you haven't seen the movie October Sky, it's a beautiful film. And for Jake Gyllenhaal to be 17 years old, a senior in high school who got tutoring on the set of October Sky, for him to do so great straight out of the gate in his first leading role in October Sky is impressive. It's no wonder he's the scale of actor he is today. To pull October Sky off at the age of 17, it's so good. If you have not seen October Sky, you need to watch it now. So I realize that we're living in an era where every single billionaire has a space company as a hobby. But apparently, while doing research for this episode, we can blame Jeff Bezos and his pursuit to have a space company on the movie October Sky. It's been said that when he watched this movie back in the day, back in 1999, it made him eventually want to have a space company. So there's this, October Sky is a great movie, but at the same time, it fueled a billionaire to do crazy things with his money. There's a silver lining to things, but then there's a gift and a curse. It's a push and a pull.
Jeff Bezos, you are an astronaut now. How does it feel?
It's amazing.
And just like I mentioned before, the movie October Sky is actually based on a book called Rocket Boys that was written by Homer Hickman, which was Jake Gyllenhaal's character in the movie. But here's something that's crazy that required a little bit of brain function for me to figure out. The movie wasn't called Rocket Boys because apparently movies with the word rocket in it at the time in 1999 or in the 90s didn't do very well. So the producers and the creators of the movie decided we need to name it something different, something that's more appealing to a general audience. And they came up with October Sky. Do you know how? It's an anagram. It's a exact, precise anagram for Rocket Boys, the name of the book written by Homer Hickman. I'll give your brain a few seconds to figure it out. Yeah, it took me about that long to figure it out too, but it's a flawless anagram. You rearrange the letters of Rocket Boys and you get October Sky. What a beautiful name of a book, beautiful name of a movie. It's crazy to think that all of those letters just switched around perfectly, created, like you never would have guessed it. But that's amazing that just by happenstance, just by like the universe perfectly aligning, were they able to make this movie where Sputnik in the movie, you know, the satellite that they see, that the Russian satellite that launched the space race was launched in October. So October Sky makes sense. And Rocket Boys, as the name of the book, makes sense. It's crazy. It just worked perfectly. Thank you for tuning in to another week of Bygone Geek. And until the next time you see us or hear us, be sure to live your life with just a little bit of whimsy. We'll see you guys next week.
Hey now, you're an all-star. Get your game on, go play. Hey now.